Live from the headquarters of Common Sense, this is Common Sense Christianity. As always, I'm your host, Ethan Foster, here today with another episode. I'm going to be doing things a bit differently, guys, but before I tell you that, here's our verse of the day. It comes from Ephesians 4:22, verse 23. It says, "You were taught with regard to your former way of life to put off your old self, which is being corrupted by its deceitful desires, to be made new in the attitude of your minds." Again, that's Ephesians 4:22, verse 20 through 23. So I said things are going to be done a bit differently today, and they are. So if you've ever heard of him, Ray Comfort, he how do I even describe him? Let's just say call him a Christian. He's a Christian. He's a fellow Christian that evangelizes the people, and he does it in a great way. I respect his work, in that regard, but I do criticize him for this in particular, and I'm gonna bring it up on the screen. If you give me a sec, I'm gonna have to mute myself. And my computer is not working. Come on, load, or don't load. All right. So hopefully that looks okay for you guys. I guess it's too late. So I'm going to go ahead and mute myself and play the video.
The canine kind, the coyote, and the domestic dog, and there's the feline kind, which is the cats, the tiger and the kitten, and you've got humankind. So Darwin said there'd be a change of kinds over many years. So could you give me one example of observable evidence of a change of kinds?
So, for instance, the fossil record shows the common ancestors of all carnivores, that cats and dogs were once linked, once united by a common ancestor.
How long ago?
This, I believe, was like 60 million years ago.
The scientific method must be observable and repeatable. So could you give me one piece of observable evidence for Darwinian evolution?
Okay, I would point to, as one great example, is look at the genetics of the stickleback.
What's that?
So stickleback fish are a very interesting collection of species that were recently isolated after the end of the Ice Age.
What do they become?
They're various species of sticklebacks.
They stayed as fish.
So notice what he does here. Plays this mind trick with the supposed scientist on evolution. He brings up the scientific method and says it must be observable and repeatable. But see, the problem is with evolution, the various speciation within the evolutionary theory, it takes a long period of time, not tens of thousands of years, but more like hundreds of thousands, even millions of years. And these scientists give him examples of basic low-profile speciation between various fish species, and eventually that might lead to something else. But he ignores that part, and the scientists don't bring that up, and they let Ray Comfort stump them on this particular argument. Let's continue.
Well, of course, human beings are still fish.
Human beings are fish?
Why, yes, of course they are.
Could you give me an example of Darwinian evolution, not adaptation or speciation, but a change of kinds?
These are changes of kinds.
They're still fish.
They're distinctly different fish.
We have thousands of examples.
Can you give me one?
I can give you thousands.
Just one.
For instance, I would say look at Lenski's experiments with bacteria then.
So what do the bacteria become?
The bacteria are still bacteria, of course.
That's not Darwinian evolution. That's not a change of kinds, is it?
It is a change. It is a change in the genetic makeup of the bacteria, which
They're
is
still bacteria. So what do the bacteria become?
A new kind of bacteria.
So it's still bacteria. There's no change of kinds. To summarize, the observable evidence.
Again, he's just throwing out examples here and ignoring the available evidence that we have. When it comes to bacteria, he says they stay bacteria. Well, obviously they stay bacteria when they change and mutate in our present time. Notice when life appeared 3.5 billion years ago, the first multicellular life, I believe, didn't appear until around 900 million years. It took that much time, a few billion years, for multicellular life to appear. So it's not you're not going to observe that. And again, bacteria is a very flawed example, and he leaves out parts of evolutionary theory to justify his claim. I guess we'll watch a bit more of this video.
You give me for Darwinian evolution is bacteria becoming bacteria.
No, it is bacteria acquiring new metabolic capabilities.
You said before that there is lots of evidence for evolution. I just want one observable evidence for Darwinian evolution,
No.
just one.
But I gave you some. You don't want.
Not some, I want one.
Wait, you don't want that.
I want one. Yes, I do. I'm pleading with
you
people.
said, you asked me to tell you. You asked me to tell you when I've watched one species evolve into another. Isn't that right?
No, one kind into another. There's 14 different definitions of species. So I want a change of a kind.
When you're talking about kinds or change in families, you're actually talking about macroevolution. You're talking about changes on the level of that separate, say, cats from dogs.
So could you give me any examples of Darwinian evolution?
Well, when you say examples of that, then you have to sort of look at over a longer time frame.
When you say change of kinds, you mean the evolution of one species from another or to another?
And that last scientist was completely right. And that's as much as I'm going to show you, because it provides the basic point here that I'm trying to give to you guys. And this is what young Earth creationists do. And it's what I did when I was a young Earth creationist. They spin the facts and ignore some parts, and then they'll use these scientific objective facts to justify their unscientific position. This shouldn't even be a debate anymore. Evolution is hard rock science. It is the foundation of biology. There's no question about it anymore. I compare young Earth creationists to flat earthers now, because it's come to that point. Because they don't use science to argue with it. They use this piece of evidence to back their claim. But then there comes up a bunch of questions for the young Earth creationists. And as one of those professors pointed out, he was picking and choosing what he wanted to hear. And another one of them said, what you're talking about is macroevolution, which is the evolution over long periods of time, with the changes of kinds. And that is a lot harder to discuss. But we have observable evidence for microevolution. And who's to say that over long periods of time, with enough microevolution, macroevolution won't happen? Thank you guys for listening to this episode of Common Sense Christianity. Make sure you subscribe, leave a like. Ask questions in the comments section below. You can email me personally at commonsense.christianitypodcast@gmail.com. Check out our other podcasts, the Sons of Liberty podcast. So if you're interested in politics or anything like that. And until next time, I'm Ethan Foster here with Common Sense Christianity.